Hey, good morning. Habari Zasabuhi, Hude Maha, and me there, Majes. Welcome to That's Life with S with Evolution. I am your host, Evolution, and today I have a very special guest. Uh, I hope I don't mess your name up. Yanet Andrade. Did I say that right?
Yes.
All right. How you
I
doing
mean, you
this
have
morning?
no accent, so
How are you this morning?
getting you.
Good, good. For the people who don't know you and would like to know a little bit more about you, why don't you give a little introduction to yourself?
Let's see. I'm just an average person doing a video for the first time.
Okay, all right, all right. So, an average person doing the video for the first time. So,
Yes.
you are a mother and
Yes.
you are married.
Yes.
And so, I think for today's topic, you would fit right into um, what we're going to be displaying today. I'll get to the topic in a minute, right after I
Okay,
do
because
the um, sponsorship. We are sponsored by JG's Lounge, TGBTG, Golden Diamond Productions, and Vibe, VYV. You put it in the vial and you sniff it, and it gets your brain activated so your thought process can be focused for the day. You can support the show and get a little discount by going to myvibe.com and type in Lucian 15, Lution 15. All right. So, Yanet, the
yes. Oh my
topic.
gosh, I've been waiting for this.
Oh
Oh,
my goodness.
let's see the
So,
topic. Let's see it.
the topic of the day. Are you ready?
Yes. Yes. I'm ready.
Self worth.
Oh,
Self worth.
self-worth.
Yeah. Self value, self image. That's what we're going to be getting into today.
Oh
So,
gosh.
all right. So, on That's Life with Evolution, what we do is we present a topic, and some people usually sit on the left or the right. What we do is we try to give them a little bit more so they can meet in the middle or make life better for them. And the best way that we do that is by getting the conversation going with Leia's question. And we're going to get into Leia's question right now. All right. So Leia's question is, what can you do to improve your self worth, self value, or self image? Couple things you can just simply change. But what do you change? I got a couple topics here. The first one is you change how you view yourself. And also later we'll get into you change how others view you.
Yes.
So just off the topic alone, Janet,
Hmm.
what are your thoughts on self worth?
Um, let's see. Well, I feel like it's about like presenting yourself. Um, so like how you view yourself, and I also believe like what applies like in your background that mold you to
Mm,
be to give you that like who what the type of person who you are
mm,
and what your value is. So I feel like if you notice that you're struggling about this, you should change like a daily routine so
mm.
you could improve that self-worth. I
Daily
don't know if I
routine.
got to that
It, it,
question,
it's,
but
it's, it's interesting that you mentioned daily routine because when we did our research, daily routine did not come up. So that's very interesting that you mentioned that. What about the daily routine do you think is valuable or important to changing self worth?
well, it opens up new doors in your state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I definitely feel like that can motivate you to change the value of your worth. I know you can read books and watch movies and you feel inspired, but it's not going to change until you physically do something about it.
Mm. Boy, wow. great response, and I totally agree. Um, so I'm gonna get into the list that I have here today, um, on how you can view yourself, basically, kind of how you mentioned that. But one
Mhm.
of the ways you can be kind to yourself, and um, I think when you talk about self worth, um, people can be mean to themselves. They can judge
Oh
themselves.
yeah.
They can be harsh on how they view certain things about themselves or everything about themselves. Um, what are ways do you think people can be kind to themselves to improve their self worth?
Uh, that's always hard, honestly, because like I'm even hard on myself as a parent. Like when I, especially when I punish my kids, I'm just like, was I too rough? Like, should I handle that differently? And then
Mm-hmm.
I just like, damn, I must be like a terrible mom or something. So it's kind of hard to steer away from the negative part and view yourself positive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it
Um,
does, but actually that's called being a good parent. I mean, if you didn't
mhm.
care about your children, and if you didn't punish them for the things that they're not doing right, then you wouldn't be a good parent. So that's
But
just
the thing
part of.
is that nobody's going to be there to tell you that.
Well,
And
no.
that's what we need to view in ourselves. Like, I did a good job. This is going to be best for them because this is going to make them a good person or good kid, or they're going to make right decisions in the long run. Like, I feel like we don't notice it in ourselves until somebody tells us. Like, we're
Mm,
always will be harsh on ourselves. And as sometimes as we want to be like positive and be like, oh, I did great. This is fine. It's kind of hard to squeeze out of that, if it makes sense.
well, I mean, what you're saying is really opening up everything that's down the line. But that's great.
I'm sorry.
That's no, that's great. That's how it's supposed to go. It's supposed to flow right into what's coming next.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes you need to hear certain responses from others to give you that self satisfaction that, oh yeah, yeah, I guess I am doing pretty decent in this area. Um, but I think for ourselves, we need to kind of not rely on those things, but
Oh
just
yeah.
have the understanding that if you don't do these things to and for your children, uh, what will they turn out like? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, we are doing things for the best of the best, and if we don't do those things, even though they're hard, they're difficult.
Hmm.
Nobody in their right man likes to
Yeah.
chastise their children or discipline them for things that they're not doing, um, that fall up under our umbrella of protection and structure.
Yeah.
Um, so we just have to do what we know is best that work for us
Hmm.
parents and try to instill that into them, and that brings us the satisfaction of, hey, maybe I'm not doing so bad, right?
Yeah. But I also believe like it starts when you're a child, honestly.
Hmm.
Um, because when you're a kid, you're excited about something that you did, and you go up to your parents, and they're the ones that are giving you the approval of like, oh, that you did a bad job, or oh, you did an amazing job.
Hmm.
So you're already having somebody telling you what you did was good and bad. And so
Hmm.
as a child, when you do something bad, even though you believe that was something good, you put yourself down, and
Hmm.
then you try again and you try again, and you want the feedback of good bad. And so as you're an adult, now the things that your parents told you were doing bad, you think that is bad, but it's actually good in reality, just in a different way.
Hmm.
And so I feel like it literally starts as a child. Like you have to think in what a child is thinking, like in their mind, is this a good, or what was thinking at the moment, and ask them, like, what were you thinking about? Like, what do you think?
Hmm.
Is this situation good or bad? Like in your mind, like, could we fix this? And that way, we're not looking and seeking our self worth from other people. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Can you do me a favor? Just turn your volume down just a little bit.
Oh, me too.
It looks like we're getting some feedback, just a little bit.
I'm so sorry.
No, no, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
How do I
So
turn my volume down?
It sounds like whatever you did worked. Okay, so
Okay.
the next
Maybe
thing
I'm
in
just being too loud.
no,
Maybe
no,
just talk really loud.
no, we can hear you great, so that's perfect. Um, so the next thing we're looking at as far as self worth is in the view of how you view yourself. Um, the next thing, kind of in that category of be kind to yourself, is avoid comparing yourself to others. I know a lot of people, just a couple, it's only two of them out there, that compare themselves to other people for their self evaluation, which is, I guess, can be good on one hand, and it also can be not so good on the other. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts about that?
I definitely have. I've always struggled of my mom comparing me to other children. Like, why
Hmm.
can't you be more like her? Why can't you be more like them?
Hmm.
So, as growing up, I always told myself, don't ever compare to everybody else because there's only one you,
Hmm.
and you can only do your best. And what you gotta you gotta appreciate it because you're blessed for what you got.
Hmm.
And I feel like a lot of people struggle to realize like what they have is good enough. What they have is you're blessed with because a lot of people like envy like I have a family and then there's other people that want a family but don't have a family.
Hmm.
So they value that. I know there's things that goals that people want to reach, but I know if you surround yourself with people with the same goals, you're going to get there.
Hmm.
So I know that you want to compare yourself a little bit in that sense because if you get with people with those opposite goals, you're never going to get there because they're just going to give you a different vibe, I guess, or
Hmm.
different state of mind. But if you
Hmm.
surround yourself with people with the same goals, you're definitely going to get there because you're motivating each other and you're also comparing yourself as in like, oh my gosh, because they're doing this job,
Hmm.
they're getting all of this, maybe I could end up there too if
Hmm.
I continue the same path.
Hmm.
Um,
Well put. Um, yeah, I like that. So we're going to move on to the next one. Being positive. I always say, be positive, be positive, be positive. I say
mhm.
it three times when I use this example because sometimes you have to teach yourself how to be positive. And
Oh
like you
yeah.
said, your mother kind of gave you negative vibes when she compared you
Hmm.
to other people, and sometimes, like you mentioned before, when you were dealing with your children,
Hmm.
you kind of get negative vibes on that.
Oh yeah.
Negativity comes so easy, so we kind of have to teach ourselves to be positive in how we look at things. What do you got for that?
Um, I try to be positive in a sense of like things happen for a reason. I
Hmm.
try to look for something positive in the outcome of
Hmm.
what I'm doing. But I know it could be difficult, especially depending on the situation of what you're doing,
Hmm.
and especially oneself. Like, I feel like we punish ourselves way harder than anybody else
Hmm.
can. So it's
Why do
so
you
hard to be positive.
why do you think that is? Why do you think people are so hard on themselves?
um, I honestly don't know. Like I said, I feel like it just starts as a child, like
Hmm.
your parents are already harsh on you. Like, you could have done better. I've
Hmm.
seen other soccer kids running quicker than you are, or they're
Hmm.
doing a better job. Like, you could have done better. Like, so I always feel like we punish ourselves from what we hear on the outside.
Hmm.
We're harsh on ourselves from what the negative feedback we've gotten from people previously.
Hmm.
So, and it's really hard to find the positive um, in yourself, especially if
Hmm.
it's yourself. I don't know.
So,
Like, you need
so
to hear it from somebody else.
got it. So, what I did when I was younger, and I kind of still do it now.
Hmm.
I use negativity as fuel to be positive. Because there's so much negativity out there now.
Yeah.
So I just kind of train myself whenever I hear negative things to kind of just bounce it off or throw it in a pot of fire so I can
Hmm.
fuel the positivity and I just go with the positive outlook on everything,
Yeah.
regardless of how bad or catastrophic it could possibly be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just gravitate to the positive. That's what I do. Um,
You're
does
just
it
like,
help?
that's fine. That's
Right?
fine in the middle
I
of the
say,
fire. Yeah.
yeah, okay, let's go. But yeah, that's usually what I do is I just focus on positive outlooks, and that's it. People who are negative, they come around me. I really don't listen to them. I just shut them out,
Yeah.
and I'll respond positive. If they respond negative on top of that, I give them a couple times, and if they continue the negativity, I'm like, okay, time for me to go.
Well, it's
Right?
easier to be positive for somebody else than it is for yourself, for
Why is that?
oneself.
Why is that? Has society brought us to this type of,
Yeah,
standpoint?
definitely. Like you hear it like when I'm streaming, you
Mm-hmm.
see it on social media, like parents doing the same thing you are, but it's like, oh wait, that's a bad thing. Especially when you're
Mm-hmm.
watching it on social media, then you realize like, oh my gosh, is that how I look like? Or like when I'm doing this scenario, like,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was like, what can I do to change that? I know
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of like social media is posting a lot of things about moms, like especially like comparing moms and dads. Like if
Oh
a mom
wow.
does it, it looks lazy. If a dad does it, oh, they're the best dad ever. And I'm just like, I feel like social media has definitely played.
Oh wow. You know, that's very interesting that you said that because we got something coming up later that will highlight those things. You're right on fire. You're on
Okay.
target. You're on target. So the next thing here I have is treat yourself to kind of help with your self worth or your self value, kind of bring your esteem up.
Hmm.
And as far as treating yourself, I got things like go shopping or get a new hairdo, manicure, pedicure, things like that. Uh, what do you think?
I think as a mom, I feel
Hmm.
like it's really hard to do any of those things because you always put everybody first before
Mm,
yourself. You
got
always
it.
want, like, my state of mind is like, I want them to be good before I'm good. And
Hmm.
I don't see my self worth there because I'm putting their priorities first before mine. And I feel like that's a struggle with all moms out there that we're worried about everybody else than ourselves. And I feel like not even moms, like even people in general
Hmm.
are worried about what everybody else thinks before they put I am good. Like I need this. I need to take care
Hmm.
of myself.
Hmm.
I know if you find the simple things to take care of yourself, like going for a walk and changing your routine, like I need to get away from this. Like I need this for myself, for my own
Hmm.
mental health.
Hmm.
I feel like that's going to change your self worth, the way you value yourself, the way you see yourself.
Wow. You said a lot when you said you look to take care of everyone else first before you take care of yourself. That's my mentality.
Hmm.
I work hard. I provide, for the family, and
Hmm.
my mindset is my family's gonna eat first,
Yeah.
and before I eat, and,
Hmm.
and I plan on eating good. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So that's my mentality, and that's kind of how I that's what keeps me going.
Hmm.
But also, what I found is when I take a moment for myself, that gives me even more fuel and energy to do those things that can take care of them, and I can take care of them better.
Yeah.
So there are times where I have to just go to a movie by myself and just clear my head, watch what's on screen, and
Hmm.
relieve my brain for a couple hours, um, or even take just moments during the day whenever I can,
Yeah.
um, to just kind of focus on me. Um, it doesn't take a lot,
Yeah.
you just do a little bit at a time, but it's such a big reward when you do that.
Oh yeah.
Um, you were
You
about to
just
say something?
Yeah, you just gotta stop feeling guilty for doing these things for yourself, you know?
Feeling guilty. Why would you feel guilty I mean,
I don't
because you're always taking care of everybody else.
Yeah. And
Why
then the
feel
moment
guilty when you take care of yourself?
I don't know, like the moment I do something for myself, I
Hmm.
feel guilty because I feel like somebody else's needs is not being met at that moment.
Hmm.
I don't know, like I could have been doing this instead of going for my walk. Like that needed to be done in the house, like
Hmm.
I don't know, that's just the way I think.
Hmm.
And I've heard other people's like, yeah, but I feel guilty if I go with all my kids. And I'm just like, why though? And then I
Yeah.
think about myself and I'm like, why don't I tell myself why?
Hmm.
Like if I feel bad for them and asking them why, like you need this for your mental health.
Hmm.
Why don't I tell myself that? And so,
So you could easily tell someone else that,
yeah, but I
but it's
can't
hard
tell
for you to
myself.
tell you. Wow, that's an interesting look at it, but that's how
Hmm.
things kind of really are,
Hmm. It's easily
So
said than done, right?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you bring in some really good points up here. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think if we all focus, and I'm gonna break it down so we can understand
Hmm.
where I'm thinking. There's 7 days in a week, right?
Yeah,
Um, right now, you're dedicating 7 days to everyone else.
yeah.
And I'm not even saying take one day. I'm saying take part of a day
Hmm.
and dedicate it to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Something just as simple as leaving earlier for work and getting yourself a little treat like some ice cream or something.
Hmm.
I mean, of course not if you're lactose intolerant, don't do that.
Right.
but just something simple like that. You
Hmm.
find something on sale that you've been wanting for a while, get it. Say, hey,
Hmm.
I did that for me today. You know, things like that. You start small and then
Hmm.
you build up. But what are your thoughts on that?
Uh, I definitely do go to work a little early than normal, like 30 minutes early to give
Uh-huh.
myself time to mentally prepare for
Mm-hmm.
work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it's also hard to be able to treat yourself when your child needs clothes or something needs to be done at home, so you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
go out to go treat yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then there are moments where you're shopping with the family.
Mm-hmm.
Then you see something you like, and then you're just like, yeah, I'm going to treat myself.
Oh,
And I
good, good,
think it's
good.
just an excuse to buy things, especially at Target.
Oh, that's funny. So you feel better when you do it as you do it for everybody else.
Yes. Like if I go out with my family,
Mm-hmm.
then I feel a little bit better buying what I want because, my kids are there. They're going to get stuff too.
There you go.
But I feel like if I go by myself,
Mm-hmm.
I feel guilty.
Wow. Okay. Well, stop feeling so guilty. You got. I mean, you. I mean, that's you being hard on yourself. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
that's kind of what we're pointing out. And I think the points that you're bringing from a mother and a wife's perspective are really strong, especially with this
Hmm.
topic that we have today. So I'm really glad that we're doing this. So the next one here I have, as far as um, self worth and whatnot, and how you can change to view things better
Hmm.
about yourself, is take better care of yourself. I have eat better, you know,
Oh yeah.
hang around people who make you feel happy. And I think you
Hmm.
mentioned that earlier slightly.
Hmm.
Uh, but what are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, like just changing a little small routine in your daily life to make yourself feel good. Like cook something you want to cook. Don't cook what everybody wants to eat, Like
Hmm.
that's going to make you feel good.
Hmm.
And if they don't like it, well, they could eat it or don't eat it at all. um but I know I go for walks. Like I go for an hour walk in my daily
Mm-hmm.
routine, so I
Mm-hmm.
could release endorphins in my head, so
Mm-hmm.
I can feel good,
Mm-hmm.
so I can keep my mental sanity. Don't lose my
Yeah.
head. And my kids know it. And sometimes they come with me, which is perfectly fine because
Mm-hmm.
you know what? We're all enjoying whatever the walk brings us. And
Right.
we don't walk the same path. We walk different paths and around the neighborhood or wherever our feet wants to take us. And even though sometimes the kids could be a little distracting because they decide to run in the middle of the street,
Mm-hmm.
it's still something that's gonna be healthy. That's gonna definitely change the way I feel and view things. I don't know. I've always done walks with my family since I was little, and I always
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed them. And that's like one of the best memories I have. And it was like every night we'd take the dogs and go with the family walk at night and just walk off the food, and we'd have a
Mm-hmm.
good meal. And I definitely feel like food does bring a lot of people and enjoyment and everything about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
A walk.
togetherness.
Yeah, togetherness. A walk in
Hmm.
nature can do a lot for a lot of people. It's healthy. The just being in the scenery, getting out the house.
Hmm.
Uh, it's a great thing. So good for you. Good for you. Um, let's see. Improve communicational patterns. Um, let's see. So what I have here is worldwide view of how the world looks at things. You can improve on the things that you bring into your knowledge. Instead of watching news all day,
Yeah.
uh, you know what I'm saying. Instead of watching what do you call horror films all day,
Hmm.
right? Uh, um, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. That one's a tricky question because
Tricky
what
question.
what comes into mind is when you said the world is that negative feedback. Sometimes a lot of the stuff has negative feedback. A lot of
Hmm.
social media, a lot of the
Hmm.
people outside the world, even like your friend has a negative feedback because it's a
Hmm.
different perspective.
Hmm.
And I feel like it changes the way you think about yourself.
Mm, interesting. So, with that being said, I have a little exercise I want to do with you right now.
Okay.
Um, and it's just dealing with pros and cons. I kind of call it if the shoe were on the other foot.
Mm.
So, uh, in this exercise, we're going to talk about five things that are pro, five things that are con. And what we're going to talk about and highlight is women's rights.
Yeah. We're going to talk about women's rights.
Yes, we are.
Oh my God.
So, so I want you to start off with things that are con or against your views as far as women's rights. I want you to start there. Give me five things um, that you do not like about women's rights.
Oh my gosh. This is a topic. So honestly, I feel like women's right is BS.
Mm,
I
okay.
feel like it's just the government throwing the bone at us and then pulling it back and us following it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Explain. Express.
Um, because I just don't see really a difference in society.
Hmm.
Um, they all talk about women's right, women's right, women's right, but like I don't see it. I hear it, but nobody actually acts on it.
Mm, okay.
And so I just feel like it's just a way for the government to shut us up. Because,
Wow.
yeah, like I feel like there's still a lot of out there, like a lot of men playing that role, or they're secretly hiring a bunch of men, or even then, like, even society um, puts men stuff like men's sports. They promote it and make it big, and then when it comes down to women's sports, it's like it's like this. But I know it has to do with money and stuff being tossed around and stuff. Like obviously,
Hmm.
if more people view men's sports, it's gonna be big. If
Mm-hmm.
more people viewed women's sports, it's going to be big because it's all about the money.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they should put a little bit more effort into women things. But also, women have to support other women, and I feel like a lot of women lack in that. Um, and then I just feel like we kind of pick and choose at the same time. So like women are like, yeah, women's rights, but then when they want to do like this whole, I know that the army is starting to bring in men. What is it called? Uh, they're starting to pick men to go into the army. I heard something about that in the news, and now they're going to include women next year. I know a
Mm-hmm.
lot of women are going to be like, no, no women's rights. I'm out the door. So I feel like
Mm-hmm.
we all kind of pick and choose what we want, like Lucky Charms. You know, you only pick the good
Get
stuff.
it? Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Um,
Yeah, you know, it's so bad.
that is very, very interesting. And so true. I mean, you just hitting all the bullet points today, which is great.
I
Okay,
hope so.
so
I'm sorry.
no, 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 you're fine. So let's spin it around. So what are the things that you like or for that you notice about women's rights?
That I like.
Yeah.
I don't like any of it
Oh
because I
wow.
just feel like the women that started the women's rights
Mm-hmm.
weren't a mom, weren't married. They were
Mm-hmm.
just single people fighting for women's rights. Because now women nowadays have to take care of the home, have
Mm-hmm.
to work,
Mm-hmm.
and come home after work and still take care of the children.
Mm-hmm.
And even when you're pregnant, you're still working until the baby's born. You know how exhausting it is that last trimester? Are you
I don't
kidding
know
me?
personally, but I'm pretty sure it's really taxing, uh, to say the least.
Yeah, like you could even see it on the women's face. Like they're
Hmm.
pale. You can tell they're tired
Hmm.
and they're barely making it. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, that poor woman. And even then, like some hygiene products is not free for us. It's like we didn't ask for this, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Hmm.
it's like, and I have to pay for it every month. Are you kidding me? And I just, and like, I feel like, and there's even like abortions. We don't even have a right of our own body when it comes down to abortions. Like, let me tell you, like, if women's rights was a real thing, men shouldn't be voting on abortions for us women because that's our body.
Hmm.
And the government has a right of our body of what we could choose if we want to abort or not. So I feel like if women's rights was a real thing, they would focus on stuff that women actually needed.
Wow,
Yeah, like I don't know.
that is
That's what I
incredible.
think. I'm sorry for the people out there that don't
No,
agree
no,
with
no,
me.
no, 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 no. I mean, your perspective is true. Because
Mhm.
when people ask these type of questions, who do they normally ask? Men, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
So
where's the women at out there to help other women out?
right. So what I'm doing today is I'm asking a woman, right?
Thanks.
Shouldn't that be the way it is, right? You
Yeah,
you 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 want to know the truth and how people really feel, you go to the source,
yeah.
right? So wow, that's very interesting because I will highlight some things that I was thinking about as you were talking. So I think from women's rights, women now can work in the same environment,
As men.
and therefore a long time, and even some places still
Hmm.
they weren't getting paid the same amount.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and I know those things are starting to change. They're starting to balance out
Hmm.
the pay scale, and not enough, but you're starting to see women hit key positions in companies, in corporate places. Um,
I honestly
and
feel like though, like men don't hear us out though. Like even though we're working the same environment, they don't hear us
mhm,
out. And I know this for a fact because I went to school for aeronautics. I was
mhm.
the only female in my class.
Wow.
And I remember we were working on this project. We were working on like an engine.
Hmm.
And I was telling my classmate that what he was doing was wrong and it needs to be done this way.
Mm-hmm.
and he refuses to listen to me. And I was getting frustrated because I was like, I know I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know this is right. And all the guys were going with this one guy that was like completely wrong.
Wow. And instead
Yeah.
of just,
Yeah. What I was explaining to them, like, no, this engine, this part goes here, and then this
Mhm.
does this. And they would not listen to me whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, like, yes, I could go to school with them. Yes, we could do the same thing. But when it comes down to actually doing a project together,
Mm-hmm.
we're always singled out. And then we'll be called the B, BTICH. You know, like if we're like, no, we're right. Like this is the way it's done. They're just not going to listen to us. And like
So,
even if we stand up for what we believe in, we're
mhm.
being called the B word. You know?
So if you could send a message to those type of people right now, um, for those situations and scenarios,
Hmm.
what would you say to them?
Just give us time. Like hear us out. Like don't just listen to us and then turn away. Like actually take in what we're trying to say and take it to consideration. Like if we were one of your fellow dudes, like we might be wrong, but if you just value our opinion just for a second and actually take in those words, what we're trying to say, it's
Hmm.
going to make a big impact on the way we feel because we're being heard.
Absolutely. Um, I totally agree with that. And in my point of view, when I have discussions or situations like that, every person's response is valuable,
Yeah.
regardless of how radical or how ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
You can always take something from it to add into the goal of what you're trying to accomplish. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And I like movies a lot. I watch movies because of that.
Hmm.
You have all these different characters, and then, for instance, they're locked in this chamber and they're trying to get out,
Yeah.
and then they're having this conversation. Well, we should try this. We should try that. We should try that. And then there's this other person on the other side, just like nobody's really paying attention to, and
Yeah.
they ask them or they finally say something, and that's the key. That's the key to get out. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, yeah, everybody should be listened to. They should be paid attention to. They should be given respect. They shouldn't
Oh,
be
yeah.
called words, that are derogatory. That's awful. And you know, respect goes both ways.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So when you're dealing with somebody, um, especially when it comes to self worth, um, you have to give them their opportunity to speak, but you also have to take the time and value what they're saying and listen to it so that you can take the good out of it.
Even taking action because I've seen it a lot where women get harassed in the work environment by either an employee or customer, and nobody does anything about it. And we don't feel valued there because nobody's taking action.
And this is something that they would consider zero tolerance, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So they're like, oh, we need to respect women, women's rights, blah, blah, blah. But then when it comes down to it, like nobody does anything about it. And I've seen it multiple times in a work environment where
Hmm.
women are getting harassed or something happens and yeah, we'll write it up, we'll listen, and don't take action whatsoever. They
Hmm.
don't have our backs like they say they do. Like they don't kick that customer out. Like, well, he's a paying customer. Customers are always right, and they still let him shop around. Or they just get a slap on the wrist if it's an employee. Well, we'll just write them up and listen to it, and just slap on the wrist and let it go.
Wow. I, I know that occurs. So let me say that first. I know that these things happen, and that type of stuff occurs because I've
Hmm.
witnessed it. But I also know, from my walk, that things do get done.
Hmm.
And in the work environment, it's usually, what do you call it? Um, they keep it confidential.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if it's
Yeah.
confidential, they can't really give you feedback and tell you what happened. They just uh, they do something behind the scenes,
Hmm.
and it gets worked on, and hopefully in those cases it never arises again. At least with those individuals that was involved in that
Yeah.
scenario. Um, so I do know that some things are done, and it may not be publicized,
Hmm.
but it's confidential. So you won't probably ever see that or hear it.
Yeah.
But does it happen enough? Probably not. And to
Even
go
like,
even further, go
yeah,
ahead. Go ahead.
even like amongst men though, like they'll keep it to themselves. Like they'll talk to each other and be like, "Oh yeah, I did this with this girl, and I did that," and it's like they're like encouraging each other, like, "Yeah, dude, like slap that butt," like yeah, like and
Oh my God.
my husband works like at a security. Um, he's a bouncer at a club on the
Hmm.
weekends as a
Hmm.
second job. And he'll even tell me like these guys be acting crazy and they'll be slapping girls' butts. And my husband doesn't deal with that. Like he'll
Hmm.
actually get them out and throw them out the
Hmm.
club. And
Hmm.
and apparently sometimes there's policemen outside and he'll hand them over to the police and be like, hey, he was harassing a girl. And these
Hmm.
girls are just like speechless. And
They
he'll
can't
tell me
believe
that,
it.
yeah, that just happened to them.
Hmm.
So even like in public, they don't respect women, regardless of the rules of like what's out there. And like other dudes will encourage other dudes to do it. And I feel like if guys have that state of mind of respecting other women and speak up, be like, hey, dude, that's not cool. Like, you need to change that. I feel like that's definitely going to help out later on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and there are good dudes out there
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm not
that
saying
do
like all
that.
dudes are like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But it's unfortunate that these things happen and occur, and it's also unfortunate that the dudes that do that, feel that they can do that,
Yeah.
especially in the public. That's just they on a whole nother level of existence,
Yeah.
outside of the norm. But uh, eventually, it catches up to them.
Oh, yeah.
I hate that it has to be eventually. It should
Hmm.
be immediate, like you say. But those type of things, I guess, get handled eventually. They'll pursue the wrong person and they'll
Yeah.
fight back or you know take a stand. And I just think instead of standing there in the shock opposite state, which
Hmm.
which which is going to happen, you don't believe
Yeah.
that happened, but also response should come after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Um, Actually, I was thinking about something. I just lost my train of thought on it, but
Uh-oh.
yeah, it was really good too. Like, oh yeah. So also, I was thinking about is that there's a lot of stuff that's being voted on for women,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like, when did this happen? Like, why didn't I'm not aware of this and did not get to
Mm-hmm.
vote on whatever happening?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that there's more women in the population than men. And I'm wondering, how in the world did this get passed if there's more women? And
Right.
I'm pretty sure a majority of these women do not agree on what the government did. Like for an example, abortion. I think in Missouri it's illegal,
Mm-hmm.
correct? And
Mm-hmm.
so like, and I get there's a lot of women out there that have religious belief and stuff, but I'm pretty sure we can all agree about our bodies. This is our body, and no men should have a right to it. But it's also written in like freedom, like what is freedom? Like we don't even have a freedom of choosing what we can do to our body. And it's like, when was this voted on? Like I wasn't even aware of this. Like
Right. And
like that doesn't make sense.
it's a lot of things that pass that people aren't aware of,
Yeah.
and even if you're voting on something huge, when you look at the actual law that they're passing, it's this
Yeah.
thick. And if you actually get a chance to read all that, you'll see everything else that's included
Yeah.
behind that major thing that's already set up that people are voting for. They don't tell you everything that's in there.
Yeah.
They're
And
telling
it's
you something that they want you to follow, and then they put all that other stuff in there. So
and it's really sad because it's like even the choices that we didn't agree to, we have to deal with it. And it's we're being forced to deal with it and we're not getting help from the government.
well, the government is not there to help us. I mean, it was designed that way,
Yeah.
but does it happen that way?
Hmm.
No. So
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like,
that's. I mean, we the people have to stand up. You know
hmm.
what I mean?
And I feel like if all women can stand up together and agree on this, it would make things a lot easier. Like, I hear that men get free Viagra, but women can't get free tampons. Like, we didn't choose this every month. Like, are you kidding me? We're
that is
punished
a
with this. Like,
that
why
is
can't
a
we get free tampons? Like, why do I have to pay for it every month? Why can't I just get it for free, delivered to my house, and I'll be good? Like, I'm sorry.
that,
Like, that's a lot of TMI, but still, like, that's not fair that men don't need it, but they get it for free. Like, why? Why?
yeah, and it has side effects and all that other stuff too. But
Yeah. So,
that is an excellent point, and maybe that can be looked into, right?
even, yeah, like, even like, not to throw in the gay community, but like transgender people even get some of them get free medication,
Hmm.
and it's like, what?
Well, I mean, a lot of different things um, are out there as far as benefits for all walks of life,
Yeah,
uh, and depending on who you are, what you are, and what you do, uh, those things were designed to benefit you, but they're also there to benefit other people as well, um, whether you take advantage of it or not. So,
hmm,
I mean, it's a lot of
yeah.
discussion topics that we're bringing up here.
But that's
But
what I'm
we're
saying.
gonna,
Like, women's rights is not real. It's just like we're just being tossed the bone because, like I said, the stuff that is important to us that should matter doesn't really matter.
well, point well taken. Wow, you destroyed that
I'm
exercise.
sorry. I'm
No, no,
sorry.
no, no. That's in a good way. That's in a good way. You did very well. So we're gonna move on to the next one as far as self worth, attitude, and behavior. Uh, brings a lot into that, and I think you kind of hit on both of those from both sides of this perspective, uh, from the spectrum. And so I think for me, when it comes to attitude and behavior, when it comes to self worth, um, I treat people like I want to be treated,
Yeah.
and then if someone brings an attitude or behavior towards me that I don't agree with, I'll stop them.
Hmm.
I'll say, hey, if you're going to talk to me, you're going to have to talk to me in a civil manner, and you're not going to
Yeah.
be using that language, and you're going to bring your tone down so we can have a civil discussion. you
Yeah.
know Anything other than that, you're just going to have to go on your way and I'll go on mine. you
Yeah.
know uh, what are your thoughts on that?
I also believe it's like even if we don't speak up about it, it reflects. Does that make sense? Like, so when I'm working
Hmm.
and some people come to the desk and they have like a really bad attitude,
Hmm.
but because I'm so bubbly and I greet them and I'm polite, they start acting polite and are
Yeah.
smiling and they're meeting my attitude as in like being bubbly,
Hmm.
and so then when they leave they're all happy and they're fine. So I feel like we reflect that on each other as well. So if somebody's giving you attitude, what are you going to do? You're going to give them attitude back. And and like, I don't know if it's like, I just know that we just reflect off of each other as well.
We do.
So even if we're not thinking about it like, oh my god, this person's giving me attitude, it's more like, well, you're giving me attitude, I'm going to give it back
Hmm.
naturally. It's not like I wanted to. I was in a great mood, but you're giving me attitude. And sometimes we have to like think about it and steer it. So if we start being polite and being bubbly and being nice, their attitude is going to change.
It will. It will. And you never know what people are dealing with.
Hmm.
And usually their attitude is reflections of something else that doesn't even have
Yeah.
anything to do with, what's going on with you.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I think that
Or they're just
that
maybe
is
having a bad day and that's the just type of attitude they're going to have. And it just takes one person to change it.
boom. There it is. One
Hmm.
person. Um, so as far as self worth and value and image, how you visualize yourself, and you can change your scenery around yourself um, by moving, redesigning, modifying things of that nature. Um, what are your thoughts on that?
Mm, it takes a lot, oneself, to change everything about themselves. And it does take time because I know like we said, like we could be harsh on ourselves. If we
Hmm.
see it,
Hmm.
it's going to take a lot of energy, your state of mind, and physically change that.
What
Like,
about what about how people see that? Some people kind of have this idea of what
mhm.
their ideal self is, and it may be slightly different from where they are, or hugely different from where they are. Um, what is your view on that?
Oh, I'm pretty sure everybody has a different idea of themselves, of who they thought they would be at this time or
Hmm.
how they wanted to end up.
Hmm.
And I feel like it's never too late to change it. It just takes time and a little bit of every day of changing that state of mind.
Hmm.
Like you actually have to train yourself to think positive because it's not something that you could do overnight and it's not something that was engraved in your head to be positive all the time. You hear more the negative in your life, so that's more engraved in your head. So I think you have to train yourself to be more positive and stop listening to other people and actually think about what you did. Like when I punished my kids, instead of saying like, "Oh gosh, I hope I didn't punish them too hard," like should
Hmm.
I talk to them different? Like what I did was right because that's going to turn make them a good kid.
Hmm.
And instead of, and that's how I'm going to change the positive way I think about when I punish my kids and grounding them and not feel bad about it and
True, true, true.
stick with it because I know a lot of parents feel guilty and they'll be like, okay, fine, you can have it back. No,
Hmm.
stick with it so they can also change and they can also learn and explain to them that why that wasn't a good idea or why
Hmm.
that was a bad choice. And that way they don't think negative about themselves. They just think about the outcome clearly and be a little bit more positive on themselves.
Hmm. And I want to go to something here that I thought about when you were saying that. This is a quote from a 60-year-old billionaire when
Hmm.
it comes to changing your surroundings. 6 months of hard work, discipline, consistency, and focus can change your life forever. Um, so the reason I brought that up is no matter where you are in life, uh, and no matter what your goals are, um, if you focus hard enough and are consistent and discipline yourself to only go after what you're trying to go after, it can definitely be accomplished.
Oh, yeah,
So,
definitely.
all right. So now we're going to shift gears to how others view you.
Hmm.
Um, so, in the way you change the way they view you, as far as your self worth and whatnot. Because people can have their idea of what you are, which is
Yeah.
could be way off. But the best way to deal with that is to be your authentic self
Hmm.
and do you and show your personality. What do you think about that?
Um, I think it's hard um, because sometimes people have a lot of opinions, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we don't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we should be able to open up and listen because it's going to change the way we think. But like I said, a lot of stuff is negative.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want the negative stuff, but sometimes we should listen and change and look at it in their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way we can change a little bit.
Yeah, and you can
And
also find out why they're looking at it that way by
yeah,
asking the right
exactly.
questions. And then sometimes it just takes an explanation,
Hmm.
Um, will they look at you like this because whatever reason, you'd be like, well, this is why I do that.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, oh, they had that oh moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Definitely.
all that goes away. Did you have something else to say about that?
We should also take in a little bit of the positive because when we hear positive things, it's hard for us to believe it and we don't take it in. And
Hmm.
so it makes it question. Can you hear my dog?
Yeah, but it's not so bad that,
Okay, because I have a puppy and she's being kennel trained and she's demanding to get out. And I'm like, girl, you gotta wait until like 8 because that's the time I'm gonna be up. I'm normally not up at this time. At 8, I always get up.
All right.
Yeah,
so,
so
so
we're
she-
kennel training. It's still new. Don't think I'm trying to murder her. She's just very
no, no.
dramatic.
No, you're good. You're good. Um,
But anyway, so what I was saying was, it's hard to take in the positive stuff,
mhm,
and we don't like sink it in and think about it. I'm like, oh yeah, like that is me. Oh yeah,
mhm,
I could definitely do that. Or
mhm,
oh, I didn't view that of myself until you said something. Like I feel like a lot of people are just like, ah, you're just saying that just to be nice. We actually should take it in
mhm.
and make that a part of ourselves and not change that part of ourselves because that's what people like and is a good thing. But we don't listen to that part. We just listen to all the bad stuff.
Why do you think that is that people gravitate towards the negative?
Everybody likes negative things. Honestly, we all like to hear the bad things and see the bad things, but we don't like the good things and hear the good things. Like on social media, what do you look at? Like all the terrible things that's happening. And then
But
all the
but
good things, we don't sink it in.
but that's very interesting because everybody wants good things to happen, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But
But it's just like we fall towards the bad thing. We just, I don't know, like the energy, the negative energy gravitates us.
hmm, interesting. Um, okay,
And I
so
don't know, it's like, I feel like it's just natural for us to navigate to the bad things. It's one in social media, it's entertaining, and it's just, there's something there that we just kind of go for,
hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess at some point it does grab your attention, the negative things, but I guess what I'm thinking about now is like a fight. If a fight breaks out, a lot of people want to crowd around and go towards the
Oh, yeah.
fight and look at it. But me, I've always, either went towards trying to break the fight up or go the other way.
Hmm.
Um, that's just kind of always been my thought process. But for some reason, the majority goes towards the negative, like you said.
Hmm.
But when you talk to everybody, they want positive things to happen.
Oh, yeah,
And
definitely.
they want to look towards a positive. But that's just interesting that they do the opposite.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I'm trying to put it together, but it's not there yet. But it's trying to be put together. I know what you're talking about, but I can't get there.
Oh, okay. So we'll continue on. When it comes to how other people view you and self worth,
Hmm.
um, we should consider others or try to see things from their perspective, which we just talked about.
Yeah.
And I have another exercise.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
What?
So since it was just Father's Day recently, I want to talk about 5 pros and 5 cons on the father's reputation.
Hmm.
because just like women's rights, a lot of that is still
Hmm.
going on.
Oh yeah.
Good, mostly negative, and not more of the good like we would like.
Hmm.
Uh, I think the same thing is probably generating from the reputation of the father.
Hmm.
So, what five things can you come up with that are pro and con as far as a father's reputation?
Um, that's a little hard. Well, they have a lot to offer on the table.
Hmm.
They're always going to work harder than the woman, even though women sometimes don't see that because, like I said, we go to work, come home, take care of kids, and
Hmm.
clean the house.
Hmm.
But I feel like they always have this baggage on them when they go to work and then come home. Like, we obviously women speak up and we're like, we want this, 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 this. But men, if you notice, they're like a clam. They're not an open book. It's so hard to shop for you guys. And because you guys sometimes are like content. I'm like, how the hell are you content? Like us girls like always want more, unfortunately. Get our
Hmm.
nails done, hair, go out to
Hmm.
dinner, whatever. Men are content. You just bring a cheeseburger and then they're like, okay, we're good. Or just take them out to go get a cheeseburger and they're good.
Yeah.
Um, but I do know that what they all have in common is they lack in listening to us.
Ooh.
Um, like they don't hear us, they just let it go one ear, not the other. And,
Um. Let me try to help you with that from a father's perspective. We have a filter. you
uh,
don't
yeah.
see it, but it's there and it's always working. And we tune out. We hear everything. We just
Hmm.
tune certain things out. But there's a filter that only allows certain things to penetrate in the thought process.
Hmm.
Um, and I'll use this as an example. In my experience, women can say 10,000 words that equate to 5 words for a
Hmm.
man. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of description, a lot of emotional attachment, a lot of uh, just words just being fired off to, and men are like, okay, get to the point, get to the point, get to the point, you know.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you go all the way around the world to reach the point, but
Hmm.
that's just how women communicate.
Yeah.
And men are more like, give me 5 words and I'm good.
Hmm.
So I think that's just the gap.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that you're being tuned out. It's just that certain words trigger a man's thought process. If something is important
Hmm.
and uh, like fire. The word
Yeah.
fire. The fire would definitely catch a man's attention because alert needs to be responded to.
Hmm.
So we're more action based. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we listen for action words, uh, and if it's not at a level of importance that I guess that we see as a need, then that filters on, and all those extra words are just stacking up and falling off.
Hmm.
But you're being listened to. It's just with a fine, uh, you know, uh, a fine tune listening tool.
Like Lucky Charms, you ain't pick and choose what you want.
Yeah. So that's kind of what's going on there.
Hmm.
And then also we process.
Yeah.
So you can say like those 10,000 words to me now, and they're there, but I won't process until later. You know what I mean?
Well, I heard there's this one thing I heard a long time ago, and I just love it. And it's women are like spaghetti. We're thinking
Okay.
about multiple things at once, and that's why it's
Hmm.
all tangled up and stuff.
Hmm.
And men are like waffles. Each individual box is
Hmm.
what they're feeling and what they're
Hmm.
thinking. So if you want them to be angry, you got to move that box over, and you go in that box, and then they're angry. If they want to be sad, you got to move in to the sad box, and they're
Hmm.
there. they're not like women where we're just sad and happy and crying and thinking about all these at once and cleaning in
Mhm.
the house and being sad about it and yelling at you. Like men are not like women. And sometimes I have to think about that when I'm talking to my husband. Like
Mhm.
you said, they're more about action.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, okay, you could take action upon this. Clean the house. Probably clean the house.
Right, right. So,
Hmm.
okay, so those were things that were con, right?
Yeah.
So now let's talk about things that are pro when it comes to a father's reputation.
Well, I know that from my perspective is that from like two role models I have
Hmm.
from my dad and my husband is that they will always work hard on getting stuff done that's needed,
Hmm.
not wanted, needed.
Hmm.
Um, I remember my dad always like cleaning the car, washing it, and my mom never had to ask him because my dad liked making sure that my mom had a clean car with gas and she was ready to work for the week.
Hmm.
And just working hard. Like I remember, even when I made mistakes, he will still be there and work hard to help me through them in his own way. Like I know it's not like holding my hand, being there emotionally because that's just not his thing.
Hmm.
Like he painted my room when I, even though what I did was not good, but it was his way of releasing that anger, but
Hmm.
also like trying to change what happened.
Hmm.
And he fixed the wall because there was a leak and then there was black mold going. So he like tore down the wall and fixed it. Like
Hmm.
he's just more of an on hands guy.
Hmm.
He's not about words. So his way of like showing love to the family is bringing money and work around the house that needs to be done, like mow the lawn, fix the outside of the house, or fix the cars. Um, and I feel like men just have a different way of showing love. We just need to pay attention to it.
Boom.
And
Well done.
yeah,
Well
like they're
done.
just interesting in that way.
Absolutely. So we're gonna move on because you nailed that one too. uh, so now, as far as how others view us, I just think as far as self worth, we just need to be honest,
Hmm.
pay attention, and ask for feedback and practice positive social behaviors. What do you think? What do you got for that?
When you were saying that, I was thinking about there is this reel that I saw that said that the most important feedback is from your husband.
Hmm.
And I thought that was interesting because one time I dressed up and I asked him like, "Oh, how do I look?" And he said something funny. He said I looked like an Easter egg because I wore like this peach striped dress.
Oh no.
Yeah, and he was just joking,
Uh huh.
but I took it so seriously and
Uh huh.
personal that I went to go change.
Oh wow. Hmm.
Yeah, and even though I know he was joking, he didn't mean it, but I valued his opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I feel like if we're gonna want to change anything or change the positive way, listen to your husband.
Hmm.
Because even though we don't agree with them or don't, or they don't listen to us, deep down, we actually value their opinion. And I even heard this girl say, like, oh, I know, this just happened too. She said that, oh, I know soy chorizo, because she's vegan, is
Hmm.
good because I dated this guy who was really mean to me, but said that soy chorizo was really good. And I'm just like, girl, like, I like how that stuck with you.
You're right.
Like, so we value men's opinion.
Hmm.
Like, we remember, like, oh, they said this, they said, but especially our husband.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and so, like, it matters to us, even though, like, we don't show it or we don't tell you, It really does. And so, like, when you're telling us we're being terrible, like, I feel like it really hurts us.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I feel like if you're telling us we're being a good mom and show it, like, physically show it, um, it's going to help us be a little bit more kind to ourselves.
Wow. Very, very strong points today. I'm glad that you were a guest on my show. I really appreciate you being here
Oh,
today.
thank you.
Um, and hopefully you can come back at some point. Um, but what did you
Definitely.
think about the show today? What did you think about the show?
I did not expect that whatsoever. um, I just hope, because my mind sometimes, like, I'm like talking about the subject and I'll just go like this. So you kind of have to
Mm,
steer me back. So I hope I
mhm.
stayed on the subject.
No, no, you did good, and then I did bring you back when you started going too.
Okay, good, good.
But yeah, uh, yeah. Did you have fun? You have fun?
Yeah, I did. It was interesting. The topics were interesting. The questions I did not think that you were gonna ask me, especially about women's rights. I'm just like, oh gosh.
You know, I threw that in there to add a little bit more to what we were talking about, to let the
Hmm.
people see how a lot of different things go into self worth.
Hmm.
It's not just one topic or subject. A
Hmm.
lot of things, are in the mix that add to self worth, and I think part of that is how women are viewed and how men are viewed. Uh, period.
Oh yeah.
And also communication has a lot to do with that as well. And I think we touched on all that today. So
I also
um,
believe like society also like we have more bad female words than we do bad male words. Does that make sense?
yeah, I can see what you're saying.
Like,
Yeah.
there's slut, there's bitch, there's, more, more, more.
Hmm.
And like, and not enough men. But so I feel like if we together, not just women, but men also together, work together on like valuing women a little bit more, I feel like we could be less harsh on ourselves because we view ourselves what everybody else view us and not ourselves as oneself. Does that make
How?
sense?
Yeah, it does. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make today is, um, regardless of what everyone else's view is,
Mm-hmm.
we can change that. By
Mm-hmm.
standing on what we will allow and
Yeah.
what we will not allow, and supporting each other and just working together to reverse those negative things that have been there for so long and that are taking forever to remove themselves from the presence. Uh,
Baby steps.
yeah, I mean, they don't have to be baby steps. Like you said, if everybody gets together,
Mm-hmm.
uh, then it'll happen a whole lot quicker,
Oh yeah.
uh, sooner than later. But if not, one person at a time, one day at a time, one situation at a time.
We just
Baby
need to be
steps.
kinder to each other, send more positive vibes, and I
Absolutely.
feel like it's definitely going to make a difference on everybody.
I agree. So that's all I got today, unless you have
Okay.
something else to elaborate.
No, I think I'm good. I think we talked about everything. And
Yeah, I think so. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's life. Once again, we have Yanet Andrade. I said it right, right?
it's Andrade.
Oh, okay.
Like I said,
Andrade.
you don't have the accent, so.
Right, right. Andrade. There we go. And we were talking about self worth today, self image, and self value. Hopefully, you got a good understanding of all that, and then hopefully it'll help you with what you got going on today, tomorrow, and forever. Ladies and gentlemen, that's life, and we will see you soon. Peace.